Okay, everybody, it's time to start. Welcome. Welcome to everyone who's here for the first time. As I've said, as people were entering the meeting, please put all your information in the chat box. And then this way, everybody will get to know who each person is. What we could do at the end of the presentation, we'll save the chat. Okay. The slides will be available to the people at the meeting. I'll be sending them out later on tomorrow, probably. And at the same time, this presentation will be on our YouTube channel. I want to cover a couple of things as we go through it, but first let's talk about the next meeting we have to Learn from Latman will be on Monday the 17th, next Monday between 4 and 5 o'clock. And I'll be talking about strategies to locate jobs in today's times. Okay. Then on Wednesday, May 19th at 6:30 p.m., the Bergen chapter will have its meeting, its regular monthly meeting. And on that one, our speaker will be Abby Kohut. For those who know Abby, there's nothing else I have to say about her. For those who do not know her, Abby is known as Absolutely Abby. And what she will be talking about is the recruiters tell all. And actually, it's more of an open mic situation where you have an opportunity to ask her a lot of questions that are on your mind about dealing with recruiters. Abby used to be a corporate recruiter for many years. And then after a while, she got to the point where she decided to go on the road because she was getting frustrated where the people who she had to say no, that they didn't get the position, she really was not in the position to tell them why they could not get the position. And for the next 8 years, she crossed the nation several times, making presentations on networking and different interviewing skills and techniques, and basically told the individuals at her meetings what they were generally doing wrong. So this could be a very good opportunity for you to learn what people on the other side of the desk are thinking when you are meeting with them. So I encourage you to sign up for that meeting. That's the Bergen meeting on May 19th. It'll be from 6:30 to 8:30. All Bergen County chapter meetings and Learn from Latman meetings can be found at the FANG website, www.thefang.org, under Bergen chapter meetings. And at that site on the Bergen chapter meetings, you could sign up for both the Learn from Latman series and also the chapter meeting. I strongly encourage everyone here to take advantage of the current situation where the FANG chapter meetings are virtual. There are different chapters out there. It seems every day we have virtual meetings. And why don't you take the opportunity to meet people in other chapters to find out what the market looks like in other areas of the country and to learn from other people. At the same time, it gives you an opportunity to increase your network. Okay, what we'll do now is that I'll start the presentation. If you have any questions that would be appropriate for the at the time for the screen or for the slide that I'm presenting, just unmute yourself and shout it out. If it's something else, why don't you just put it in the chat, preface it with the word question, and Joyce Gibney, who's my right-hand person over here, and one of our staff administrators at the FENG will monitor the chat. Okay, for those who do not know Joyce, well, I encourage you to get to know Joyce. She's very helpful in what she does, and she does it very well. So without further ado, let's talk about personal branding for today, for your success. And what we'll talk about today is what is personal branding? Where do you find your brand? What are the elements in branding? How to create a personal brand? Determining will your brand sell? And I'll talk about the 4 C's in what one would consider branding. Ways to sell your brand, places to expose your brand, tools needed to expose your brand, and then we'll just wrap it up, okay? And then I'll let you know about my brand and how that came about. You know, people talk about branding. You've heard the term many times. You know, when I say to you McDonald's, what do you think about immediately? If I say Coca-Cola or Coke, what do you think about right away? That's branding. What it really is, it's people's perception of you and your value to them. It creates a picture in their mind on what you are all about and what you can do for them. The buyer, when he is looking for the brand, I want to mention things like, you know, McDonald's, things like that. These are the things that generally run through your mind. You have confidence that the product will be really good. You'll know there'll be a consistency in it. It'll be good today, and the next time you try it, the next time you try it, and the next time you try it. And it will be distinctive. It'll be different than, I'll call it Wendy's or Burger King. It's different. It's no matter what it's all about. And where do people find your brand? Well, it's when they meet you in person. It's at social media sites, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram. Okay. These are some of the places where they could find you. And when they find you, they're finding your brand. You could have a personal or a business website. Talk about yourself and your product. Show the value that you add to others. It could be in print, where there's newsletters or articles, brochures about you and some of the things you might be doing. And there's also blogs that could talk about you, or you could do a blog. So you're going to see this in print or virtual, so to speak. It's also, people find you or your brand from recommendations from others when they talk about you. And recommendations today, especially on your LinkedIn profile, is very important. So what you should be doing, if you have not already, try to get recommendations on your LinkedIn profile from people that will talk about your skill set, somewhat about your personality if you want, or what you do, and how you have added value to different individuals. And try to get current recommendations. I mean, a number of people I've looked at their LinkedIn profile, they have recommendations, but those recommendations are 2 years old, 4 years old, 5 years old. Times change. So try to get current recommendations. And reputation. You know, people talk about you. They hear from other people. You know, you got to see this person. This is the person who could really help you out. So it's word of mouth. And that's still, you know, in today's environment, really, really important. The elements in creating a personal brand is a number of things. Part of it's clothing, you know, how you look, how you groom, etc. I had a speaker, Bergen chapter once, and she was known as the Lady in Red. And these were live when we had our live meetings. And what happened was, I got to know her through conversations, and then she came to speak. And as a Lady in Red, I'd have to say this. She was dressed, she had a red pantsuit on. She had red sneakers on, okay, red nail polish. Her business card was red, and that was creating her brand. So it's clothing, attractiveness, grooming, plus your personality, you know, based upon your actions or your behavior. That also has an influence on creating a brand. There's the competencies, the skills that you have, and your skills can become part of your brand. And then there's always this, the differentiators. What makes your brand different than another person? Okay. It's your uniqueness that really attracts everyone. And this is what you want to try to do, is separate yourself from the crowd. To do that, you know, think about what you do, or how you act, or how you help people. That makes you different than the person next to you. Why would someone want to select you as opposed to another person? You have to think about these things when it comes to the branding. And, you know, once again, what's really important is the value that is perceived by the listener, of the value that you will provide or give, if you want to call it, to the recipient. How you could help them, and what would be the value that your help is to them. How do you create the brand? Well, there's a couple of things. You know, first, as I said, you know, think about it. Okay. What's your vision? What do you want to do? How do you want people to think of you? All right. Ron was a member, still is a member of my Bergen chapter. And when Ron in the early 2000s was looking for a position, Ron had a background initially in manufacturing, and he was looking for a manufacturing position in what he considered northern New Jersey at that time. And his elevator pitch was, you know, about, he has a background in manufacturing, he speaks 2 languages, and he's looking for a manufacturing position in northern New Jersey. And people would think about, okay, manufacturing, not too much in New Jersey. And then he had an epiphany. He was thinking one day what he was doing, etc. And he looked at what he wanted to do, and he changed his pitch. And his pitch turned out to be this: I'm Ron. I want you to know me for manufacturing and academia. That's what I do. Well, it sounds pretty simple, but what happened was people would just, they would think about manufacturing and academia and attribute it to Ron. So when positions were becoming available and people would hear it in the grapevine relating to education or manufacturing, Ron would get the call. It was simple like that, because people got to think about Ron as academia and manufacturing. As a result, he ended up with a position in a university. Okay. What you want to look at in creating your brand is what your core values are. What are your likes and dislikes? What are you passionate about? That comes through in a brand. And what do you want to accomplish in the short and long term? Because that helps you in the development stage of your brand. It doesn't happen overnight. It may take a while, but look at it and say, okay, what do you want people to know you for now and 2-3 years later down the road? Think about it. Think about the skills that make you unique, because that you can use in your brand, why you are different, why people should choose you as opposed to other people, and what makes you stand out, what makes you different. You want to look at your strengths and weaknesses, and looking at that, try to figure out, well, which one, especially my strengths, obviously, do I want to use or play upon to tell people where I can help them and add value to them or their organization. And in doing this in your brand, you have to modify or change your profile online and offline to show the things that you want people to think about in your brand. Okay? It could be something that you say. It could be something you wear. It could be some of the accomplishments that you have done. And you want to put that in the messages that you have out there on your profiles, on your outgoing signature, on your emails, on your business cards. It could be a one-liner. That's all it has to be. It doesn't have to be this elaborate, brand name, so to speak. Very short. And you want to create an online presence. Okay? By doing an online presence, people get to see you quite quickly. And this could be through making comments on the threads that you see in whatever social media you are on. It could be when you post articles. It could be when you write articles, when you blog, or when people say things about you, when you make presentations, etc. It all comes together in what you're trying to do to create a brand. It's one thing to have a brand, but then you have to think about it. Will my brand sell? Because if you just have a brand and it doesn't sell, what are you really accomplishing? So look at it this way. Look and say, what are the opportunities that are open to you today? Think about it. Think about what you want to do, how you want people to know you, to think about you, in what way. And in doing that, will there be opportunities for you? What businesses are more likely to appreciate your skill set. Think about that. That could be, you know, in banking, healthcare, technology. Excuse me. And today, green energy, education, those are possibilities for you today to think about it. Then you want to know, okay, if the opportunities exist, what are my targets? Which companies do I have to seek out? Which type of people do I have to reach out to? Who would be my audience? Do I want to look for presidents of organizations? Do I want to look for purchasing managers, purchasing VPs? Do I want to look for PE firms where I could help them out? Or do I want to look for venture capitalists? You want to search out for your audience and think about it. At the same time, what am I up against? If I am doing consulting and I'm going to be a single shingle consultant and I help companies like other consultants, well, who am I up against? Well, I'm up against other single shingle consultants, consulting firms. Some of the big four have their consulting firms. Think about that. So who would be my competitors? And once again, you want to know what's going to make you distinct. What makes you different than the other? Could it be that you are an individual who are really work very closely with ownerships of the different companies that you may be working with? Are you a turnaround specialist in this type of industry? Think about it. And then the question is, you know, where do you convey your differences? What mode? Okay, do you do it through social media? Do you do it through letters, word of mouth? Which ways do you do it? And once again, when developing this brand and then developing and then assessing it, take a look and say, now who will be the people who will, you know, benefit from the value that I will increase in them? Who are the people who look to what I do and say, hey, if I engage this individual, my company will benefit and I will benefit. And this is how I see either of us benefiting by doing whatever. And, you know, what would others say about you? You got to get feedback on this. What you want to do is talk to people who you know and ask them, what do you think about this? You think this is a saleable or acceptable position I should take? Do you think this value that I am trying to create for people, will this be something that will be acceptable? Will it be acceptable today? How long do you think this will continue? What do you see in the future? This type of role, this type of value that I offer. Yeah. Now in branding, things to consider, I call it the 4 C's in branding that you need. You know, your personal brand will consist of the following. It's a clarity in that you are to tell people or project who you are and who you are not, what you do not do, okay? If you're a strategist and you build company strategies to help develop them, tell the companies the type of strategies you would help them build, but also let them know, if they want someone who will take care of the individual transactions, the detailed transactions to run the company, that's not you. And you tell them that. Tell them, no, that's not the work I do. You need, on that one, you might need a bookkeeper, you might need, a controller. You want someone for strategy to set the strategy for the company. That's what I do. So you need a clarity. You need a consistency. Once again, repetition. It's the same message in all your communication channels. Now, it might not necessarily be the same words, but it's the same general concepts, okay, that you have. And you want to communicate that in all different channels. So everybody will get to know that this is who you are, and this is the value that they would get from working with you. You want a consistency, okay? You want to always want it visible to your target. Out of sight is out of mind. So you constantly have to be there. Constancy is necessary, okay, to be visible to your targets at all times. So you have to stay at it. Don't do it, one and done, so to speak. You really have to bolster it. You have to support it, and you have to be out there and doing it constantly. And there's this commitment where, time is needed, and you have to be persistent in what you do, okay? You have to be committed to it. This is what I am going to do. This is the reason why I'm going to do it, and do it. And, it's not for, a month, 2 months, 3 months. Okay? It takes a while to really, make this brand. Then as you go through it, after you've done all your analysis, you might see that the analysis that has been, you've done and other people have commented upon, based upon changing situations in the market, may no longer be a brand that will be acceptable. And so at that time, then you will start changing direction. But until that time, if you want to follow your brand, develop that brand, you need a commitment to continually do it. Just remember, out of sight is out of mind. And avoid what I call the telephone game syndrome, in that it needs to be clear. People have to have a clarity of what you do. And the best way to do this clarity is to keep it short and simple. This is what I do. It's not, this is what I do, plus I do this, this, and this. That is now going to, cloud the brand. You want to make it really unique and distinct. Okay, everybody? Ways to sell your brand. Always attitude. Always be positive in what you talk about. Okay? Be positive all the time. At one time, if you're negative, it could destroy the whole brand. So if you're out of character, okay, that can really dilute the brand and sometimes destroy it. So be positive, people. Make others feel that they want and need you. Speak with them. Find out what their problems are. Listen to them. Ask probing questions. And then from there, go over the way you perceive their needs are, and get an agreement that this is really their needs, or get a clarity. You want to make sure that the people who you are speaking with, who will engage you, see that you will add value to them. You want to be involved in, I'll call it the business and the private community. Sometimes what you have to do, you have to volunteer, you have to offer, services that may not be compensated right away, to get your foot in the door and get people to know who you are and to get people to like you. The like factor is generally the tipping point why people will engage you or hire you. You want to be a giver. You might want to write articles on different things. You want to have in your brand, especially now that we're starting to get out there again, have personal business cards, that have your name, your information, and, want to put your brand. It could be that you're an operational executive. We'll have that on there. Okay. You might want to have on the back some of the things you do so they can look at it. When we get ready for the meetings, you want to have your identification badge. And you also might want to have a logo. Okay. So people could recognize, and they see that logo, they think about you and they think about the value that you bring to the table. You could create a website where people get to see more about you and read more about you. And the other part of, you have a strategy that you have to follow. And this is, your documentations that you have will generally have the same type of information, like your outgoing signatures. Okay. You could have your name, your address, meaning your town, your website, your email address, your phone number, and it could have a little slogan, okay, as to what your brand is, okay? And you can have that in, your emails, in your newsletters, things you write, some of the comments you make, and on your blogs, okay? Where do you expose your brand? Well, you could do it in many areas. When you go to the volunteer functions, networking groups, industry trade groups, you talk to the Chamber of Commerce. When you are in seminars, you could talk about it, or in webinars, you possibly could sponsor some webinars, or when they have an introduction, if you're on the webinar, things about you in your bio. You go into some of the ad journals that they have for some of the events, the galas, family functions. There's an everyday opportunity to expose your brand. Every day when you get to talk to people. And your brand is also part of your elevator pitch. So keep that in mind when you want to develop this brand. Okay. Online presence, LinkedIn and Twitter. The tools you need, as I've always said, it's a positive attitude. No one likes to work with people who are depressed. It's a dress, the lady in red. Just think about that. In your elevator pitch, you want to talk about your brand and what you do, your value, why you are unique. You could have a name tag, logo, etc. Your business cards. Create a tagline. Now, people call me a people helper and a matchmaker. That's what I'm called. Some people also say I'm the best networker they know. So every time I hear that, I keep my mind together and say I have to be able to get my head out the door. So I don't let it get to me. But people know me for the these things, and I'll explain that shortly. In your bio, you have a summary of who you are. Okay? And this generally could be part of your resume up in your professional profile. You have a 1 or 2 page resume or profile. Your LinkedIn profile. For some of your references, who could talk about you, and some of your online recommendations. You need these things today. Introduction letters. Another way to get people to know your brand. And just to summarize this, just remember this: the branding, it's profession, it's a perception of value that others have of you, of the value you will bring to them. You should, look at yourself, your brand, as if you were a corporate brand. How do they market it? You should be marketing it the same way. You want to formulate, I'll call it a marketing plan that shows your objectives, okay, and the things that you do, your major accomplishments. And on this marketing plan, have the different companies where you want to sell your brand. That's what you want to do. Okay. Remember the 4 C's that you have in your branding. You have a consistency, you have a clarity, you have a commitment, and you have a constancy. You always have to be working on your brand. Okay, you have to always support it. You have to spend the time on it. You need the commitment to do it. And you need the clarity to set you apart from others. It needs continued reinforcement. There's no doubt about it. So people will get to hear it more and more and get to feel that this is what the person's all about. You need a consistent message on and offline. What you want to take a look at is, start monitoring this, your progress. Take a look and see, let's say in your LinkedIn profile, how many times people are reviewing it. Take a look and say, all right, I want to, make comments this week on the threads, let's say the LinkedIn. I want to make 20 comments. Monitor and see how many you've done. Okay. I want to comment on Twitter. How many? Things of that nature. So set your goals and then monitor your goal. It requires the tools that we talked about. And, if it's working, continue to do it. If it is not working in your mind after you've given it some time, then change it. Okay. My brand, well, as I said before, people know me as a networker who opened doors for others. I'm a people helper and a matchmaker. He knows a lot of people who knows him, and this is over here is the key. And by doing this, people know that people know me. So as a result of it, I help people open doors that before they couldn't get into. And some people know me as a 3-legged stool, in that my background's in finance, operation, and IT. So I cover all 3 areas, and people know me as such. And this is what I've always said, and people know this, in that being in transition is your permanent job. Landing is only temporary. I always talk about ABC, to always be connected and connecting. ABP, you should always be positive and prepared. The opportunities could come at any time, but negative and depressed people do not get hired. And I always talk about the two most important words that you should carry with you are these. It depends. They're short words, but they mean a lot. And your actions are dependent upon the circumstances that have happened before or right happening now. And your action is dependent upon what has occurred. And so you have to think strategically. Now, in doing this, in my brand, so to speak, these last four pieces here, I generally have all four pieces in any of the presentations that I make. I talk about them all the time. It gets to a point where people know if I'm making a presentation, I do have followers. I ask them, what are the two most important words that you have to carry with you? And they're going to tell you, it depends. I talk about being ABP and ABC. Now, all of this here, okay, my brand, I didn't set out to create a brand like this. It happened over time through my actions and what people were starting to say about me. And people know that I network. I network a lot, and I've helped a lot of people as a result of it. And they know that I open the doors. Okay. They know I know a lot of people. And so, you know, they started talking about me to other people that, you know, I'm a people helper. I help a lot of people. And I help them get matched to the companies that they want to be matched with. So this has happened through my actions over time. That's how my brand has been done or created. And I just keep on reinforcing it through my actions and through my writings and through my presentations and through what I say. Now, I'm going to leave you here with my contact information. If you want to get a hold of me, this is the best way, my cell phone. And this over here, the best address to get me at. And this is my website right here. Okay. Joyce, do we have any questions?
No, I don't see any in the chat box.
Anybody have questions?
Could you give,
Let's see, we have people here. Go ahead, Dennis.
could you give a personal example, a very specific example or two of what you mean by it depends?
Okay. I had a situation where there was this position out there for a CFO, okay? And a lot of people were submitting resumes for it. And I was following on, you know, with the people who were, you know, trying to fill the job. You know, did they get a lot of resumes? Yeah, we got all this paperwork, et cetera, you know. And then when, you know, they said, you want to submit your resume? And I asked them, I said, well, you've gotten a lot of resumes, haven't you? And they told me, yeah, we got so many resumes. And I asked them, I said, well, now how are you going through them? Well, there's so much stuff to read. I wish two of the people I was speaking with, they said, we wish we had something that was just short and simple to make our lives easier. So I listened to what he had to say, and I submitted a resume to him, 1 page, just 1 page. That's all it was. It was a summary. And as a result of it, I was the one who got called in for the position because I was able to give them the information they wanted in a concise way, which is what they were really looking for. Does that help you? Give you a better idea?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
Thank you.
There are other things to look at, Dennis, as you're going through and seeing what, for instance, if you've been in an interview, okay, and going before you go to the interview to do the research on the individuals who you will interview with, and then started speaking to some of the people who know people you are interviewing with, and try to find out ahead of time what's their hot buttons, what are they really looking for, and then this way you don't go in cold, and what you say or what you bring with you is basically based upon what you know is happening. Okay. Call it research intelligence, so to speak. Okay. Anybody else? No other questions?
Hey Marty, it's Seth.
Go ahead, Seth.
Can you give some specific recommendations around when you're networking with someone, having informational phone calls, which I've been having a lot of those, especially with people who are not necessarily working in your field, or say I'm more of on the non-investment side, but I'm having conversations with people who are on the investment side. But I know they have a very short span of attention, and they'll only give you as much time as they can, but more so if it were related to something on the investment side or an opportunity on the investment side. How can I think about it more strategically to have them help me network more or find opportunities on the non-investment side?
Okay. When you are setting up these informational interviews,
yeah,
how do you set them up?
Well, sometimes it's just, Seth meet Joe, Joe meet Seth. But what I've been trying to do now is,
let's see. Okay, you're going to meet Joe. Okay.
Yeah, it could be a third person introducing us, saying, for the introduction.
Okay, and then you take it. You want to have spend some time with them for an interview, right?
Yeah.
Give them some information. When you set that up to have the information, what do you ask them for? What do you tell them? How do you request it?
What I've been trying to do more is provide them a little bit of high-level information about me, saying this is what I've been doing, and these are the type of opportunities that I'm looking for. Where there's that disconnect is that they're very focused on, on the investment side of things, as opposed to thinking about the stuff that I've been doing, whether it's management reporting roles, FP&A. So I'm getting connected with good people, but they are in the front office as opposed to, I guess, CFOs or COOs.
Okay. from what you've told me, the way I would approach it is that when I'm setting up a meeting with them, I'd send them a note and said, listen, I'd like to speak with you, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever you want to talk about, whatever you agree on. But put that in there and say, okay, during our conversation, my focus is, and give them several bullets on what you want to focus on in the conversation.
Okay.
Okay. And you might want to add another bullet on the stuff that you don't want to, you don't have to speak about. Okay.
Yeah.
Then, go ahead.
I was just gonna comment on that, is that given where I'm coming from, that I'm not a trader or a portfolio manager, I'm not giving them the impression, nor should they have the impression, that I'm looking to be that person.
Well, that's right. And just, in this way you talk about, these are what I'm looking for. Okay, this is the information that I'm looking for, where you can help me. Okay, and put some bullets out there. And then what you might want to do, which would be, I think, help you go through this whole thing, give them what I'll consider as a one-page marketing plan. Attach that, before our meeting, I'd like you to take a look at what I'm currently looking at. And in doing that, in your one-page marketing plan, have this, the top part of it, have your profile, the summary of your profile that might be from your resume. Okay. Then have, 3 or 4 major accomplishments you've made. And then what you do, make a list. And if you could put it in, 3 or 4 columns, and if you could do it by industry or some names of the companies, your target companies. And in your letter, you might want to say, these are the organizations that I'm looking to find a role as. Okay?
Yeah.
And that gives them something to ponder before you get to meet with them. And this way you're setting up really what the agenda of the meeting is. Helpful?
Yeah, I think the key word there is agenda. Setting up this agenda is good.
Yeah, and keep to the time frame that you've set. And then if you feel, it's going later, okay, that you're not going to get the answers, that you want in the time frame, just tell them, listen, I know our time frame, the time frame we agreed upon is coming up. I really appreciate your time. Is it possible that we can meet again another time? Because I have some other questions. And you'll see, they might say, well, why don't you give me some more of your questions now and extend it? Or they could possibly invite you back.
Yeah. One other follow on is, when you get a response back saying that the feedback is very positive, but we don't have an opportunity right now that fits your background, how can you reposition that or come back to them with something to say, hey, well, if you think about it this way, or to get them to think a bit more broadly about who you are as your person, or if you're promoting or pitching your brand, to say there's a lot more that you bring than just what they may think they have or don't have in terms of an open position.
Well, what you might want to say is that, I appreciate your feedback. Just to clarify the matter, based upon our conversation, it seems that your organization is missing blah, 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 or is in need of blah, blah, blah. Based upon my background, I can accomplish this in that I've done it boom, 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 boom before. Okay,
Yeah.
so cite some examples, but lead it towards, you know, the conversation, that during the conversation, okay, you have been left with the impression that this is where the company needs assistance.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
All right. Anybody else? Any other questions? Everybody's
Marty,
still awake. Go
Marty.
ahead.
Hi.
Hi, Lily.
Hi, Marty. So, can you speak more about the competition part that you were saying? Who are your competitors?
Well, yeah, I mean, look, everyone here is unique. You know, you all might have the same titles, but what you've done, you know, generally, you've done things that are different. Okay. And so what you have to look at is to say, all right, if let's say for instance, you know, you're going for a position and you see the job specs, okay? Well, you got to take a look at the job specs and say, all right, do I have all these job specs? The likelihood you're probably not going to have all of them, but you want to emphasize the things that you have, that you're strong at, that are on the, you know, the job specs. And then what you have to look at is say, all right, if this is what they're looking at, I would find out, or try to find out, you know, based upon my skill set at this point, okay. Let's say it's the initial, you know, interview or anything, you know, say, you know, what would be the next step, or based upon the information that I've given you right now, is there anything that would prevent me from going to the next step? And what they'll do in all likelihood is try to tell you that, well, you're missing this, this, and this, okay? Because they've heard that from the other people who are applying for the position. And so you have to be able to pivot either right at the meeting to come back and say, well, you know, I understand what you're saying, but do you realize I have done this, this, and this, and this to compensate about it? Or what you could do in your thank you note to them, you could then address that situation. So you're trying to look and say, okay, what am I missing that they're looking for that probably they've gotten from someone else? All right. Well, you just ask, what do the other people have that, you know, it seems that, you know, you want that's you indicated I'm missing. Okay.
Thank you, Marty.
Okay.
It's a great way to get feedback.
You know, look, you know, feedback is really the key. When you go on the interviews, you try to have, and I call it a conversation and not an interrogation. So you want to, you know, prepare yourself as best you can up before your interviews. And in doing that, you want to do your research is who will be on the interview? What is their role in the hiring procedures? What's their role? How long should I anticipate the interview to last? Okay. You get those three main questions, that will tell you then, okay, number one, based upon time, if they say it's a half hour and you go 45 to an hour, you know, you did generally well. If you went 15 minutes, you know, you got a lot of work to do to recapture it. Okay. You do research on the people who will be in the hiring process. And you will want to look at not only their background, but what they are interested in, what they likes, maybe some people who they follow. And this way you try to bring that into the conversation, where you could then gear your questions that you will ask of them, okay, based upon your research on these individuals. Because the tipping point in every interview, it's not your skills, it's the likability factor. Okay, look at it this way. Every time you get called in for an interview, when you get called in, they think that you can get the job done. They just might want some further clarification. But generally, they feel that you could get the job done. Otherwise, they wouldn't call you in. Okay? They don't want to waste time just bringing you in if you're not going to be qualified. So what you want to do is then play from that and try to have a conversation as to, you probe more as to what the company's needs are and what the competition is looking at, looks like right now at the time. And then from there, you then pivot, okay, and try to bring that into the conversation and talk about things that, people like, etc. Okay. Anybody else? Going once. Going twice. Okay, everybody. All right, this is what we'll do. Go down to the chat box. Click on where it says chat. The last line of the chat, it has 2. And it might have everybody or somebody's name. All the way on the right, there are 3 dots. If you hover over the 3 dots, the word more will pop up. Click on the 3 dots. You will now have another drop-down box that'll say Save Chat. Click on that. You're back in the original chat box. It'll say on the right, Show in Folders. Click on that. And it'll show you where on your computer you saved the chat. And you could look at the chat with everybody's information. It will be in text format. You can import it into Word and bring it into a regular document. So you could do that. All right, listen, what I will do in the next day or so, I will send out the presentation. I will send out the list of the people who were here. I do appreciate everyone's time who have attended today's session. The next Learn from Latman session will be on Monday, the 17th. And I will talk about strategies to locate jobs in today's times. And the next Bergen chapter meeting will be on Wednesday, the 19th at 6:30. And Abby Kohut will be our speaker. That's what we have. One last time for people with questions. Okay. Well, everyone, as Roy Rogers used to say, as he would ride off into the sunset with his wife, Dale Evans, happy trails to you until we meet again. Good night, everybody. Take it easy.
Good. Thank you, Marty.
Good
All
luck.
right, thanks, Marty.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, good hunting.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Marty. Bye-bye.
Bye. Hopefully everybody had a good time today. Luis, Jose, I like the picture. Okay, really good. Will, nice shot. Good one.
Thank you. Thank you, Marty.
Good. Good night, everybody. So long.
I'll put my face to it.
Looks good. All right, buddy. Take it easy.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.